I just want to talk about my district. District 30 is where I've most recently taught. I taught at Donmark Elementary, and we drew from students in Eatonville, Maitland, and Winter Park that are all in District 30. My husband grew up in Altamont in the district, and he graduated from Lyman High School, and my in-laws still live in the district, and that's where we bought our first home and decided to raise our children. So we've been there for the last 15 years or so. The community is my home, and I've been representing it for the last 2 years in Tallahassee. And in Tallahassee, I was able to bring my perspective as a teacher and as a mother. And I can tell you that both are sorely needed. Before I got there were 3 funeral directors and 1 teacher in the legislature, and they were making education policy and determining where to allocate our funds. So luckily, I was able to bring that perspective to the committees in which I served. And that was the K-12 Education Subcommittee, Education Appropriations, Economic Development and Tourism, and Business and Professional Regulation. And I can tell you there is more red tape in our education system than in any business I've ever come across. I bring a collaborative approach. Most of our issues are not partisan, so I bring that approach to our problem solving, and I work across the aisle, and half of my bills last time were sponsored by Republicans in the Senate, and I'd like to continue representing District 30 in Tallahassee.
Thank you, Ms. Dental. Mr. Cortez?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. It's truly an honor to be next to Representative Dental, and now as opponents before I had a primary, and we cleared the primary, and Ms. Chapin and I, we did not combine our shirts. But a little story from me. My name is Bob Cortez. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. When I was 10 years old, my parents moved us and my family to Puerto Rico. I frankly didn't have a choice of where to live. They took us, and I had to learn Spanish. So I grew up in Puerto Rico, went to school, college, met my sweetheart, my wife of 30 years, who was my rock and my right-hand person, Virginia. We met in Puerto Rico, married, had our first child in Puerto Rico, and unfortunately, he was born with cerebral palsy. At that time, they gave him less than a year to live. As young parents, we decided not to accept that. We decided to move to the United States and actually landed in Greenville, South Carolina, of all places. Now, you can imagine New York, Puerto Rico, and Bible Belt, Greenville, South Carolina in the 80s. God bless America, right? It was a beautiful place. Greenville was very nice, and we had 2 more children along the way. And in '89, we moved to Altamont Springs. We moved to Florida, made Florida our home. Robert Jr. passes away a year later at the age of 5, something that we still have not been able to get over with. But we did become better parents for our other 2 children who are now all grown up, and my daughter has blessed me with 2 beautiful grandbaby boys who are currently at my house because they live in Little Rock, and I'm having fun with them. I started my business in 1989, a towing business, which I still operate today. I also own the second business, which is transportation. In 2009, I got involved in public service, and I became commissioner for the city of Longwood, which I still currently serve. I'm currently the mayor of the city of Longwood. And now I'm running for State House District 30 and look forward to serving the district in years to come if I'm afforded the privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you that the League believes that the expansion of Medicaid as proposed is so important that we're going to be asking this question of every state legislative candidate. So let me outline it a bit more broadly than I did with our earlier candidates. Would you support Florida taking some $52 billion in federal funding so that health care coverage can be extended to about 700,000 Floridians who fall in the gap, earning too much to qualify for Medicaid and not enough for a health care plan? And if not, why not? Mr. Cortez, would you take that one first?
Thank you, absolutely. The way it reads scares me, and it concerns me. That is, we're being offered the $52 billion to expand Medicaid. And I'm not going to deny that the services are needed, particularly in District 30, where we have the diversity of that meet that standard. However, as I read through the portions of the Affordable Care Act on this, it is putting, after 3 years, the burden on the state. And I wonder, where is the state going to fund this money? Is it going to come from education, public safety? So as it stands, the way it's read, I do not support it, but I do want to find a solution that we can provide health care to those who really need it.
Thank you. Ms. Dental?
Okay, this is one place where we definitely have a difference of opinion. I say take the $52 billion. It is, to me, it's a moral obligation. When we know that we have over 1 million people in our state who aren't as lucky as we are to have health coverage, and they wait until their symptoms are so severe, they go to the emergency room when it's sometimes too late for them or too expensive, and that's just not how we should live in America. It's an economic issue also. $52 billion, the state will only pick up over the 10 years 7%. The federal government pays 93%. That's a great deal. And it's our money. And when we do accept that money, and we have until January, it will create 65,000 jobs in our state. How can you turn that down?
Thank you very much. A second question for each of you, and this time I'll ask Ms. Dental to respond first. Florida is the only state that allows the death penalty without a unanimous verdict, jury verdict. Every year, Thad Altman of Brevard County files a bill to change that and to require unanimity. Every year it goes nowhere. Do you think that Florida should change death penalty law and even abolish executions in view of what has been happening in other states?
First, I do support making the jury unanimous. There are so many errors in this, in the death penalty process, and we only find out later, sometimes after we've already executed people. I think we do need to have everyone on the jury in full agreement. And as far as halting executions, that is an ongoing debate. What is the most humane way to kill someone is, it's a difficult topic. And it's one that needs study. It needs to be done humanely, if at all.
Thank you. Mr. Cortez?
Thank you. Until you've lived in a place that does not have the death penalty, you don't know how what the ramifications are of living in a place that does not execute the violent criminals for violent crimes. I grew up in Puerto Rico, and the jails are horrendously overcrowded. Actually, inmates die in prison in the worst conditions that you can imagine because of the overcrowding, illnesses, AIDS, and even the overcrowded prison population. They were killing themselves. We're talking about violent crimes and death penalty cases. As I said, I grew up in Puerto Rico. It doesn't have it there. Crime is bad. I support the way the system is current right now, and I don't see any need to change it.
Thank you very much. We'll now take questions from the audience. Right up here, wait for the mic and we'll get it to you.
Hi. As a parent and a teacher, I'm very grateful for the people who have come out in the community who have expressed concerns with high-stakes testing, and I'm wondering what you're willing to do to hear the voice of the constituents and to do something to change what's happening in our schools. And what can we do to help you do that successfully?
Mr. Cortez, want to take that one?
Yes.
First.
As a Hispanic in a diverse district, I do see a lot of the issues with high-stakes testing, especially with the children that are now coming from Puerto Rico and having to face some of the English language learning capabilities that they're tested and they're either put behind not because they don't understand the curriculum or anything. It's basically they're having language issues. So that, to me, I believe we do need to work on some of the issues on the testing, especially high stakes tests.
Karen, you want to comment?
Yes, this is an issue that I've been championing for a long time since I taught 4th grade, and I saw the problems with the writing test that I was administering. And they're not valid There's too much writing on test results. It's eating away at our instructional time. It's expensive. It ties the teacher's hands. It's one problem after another. And I know Dr. Jara is in the room and he's taking copious notes about what I have to say. I have worked with people in the school boards and parents and teachers, and I will continue to push this issue.
Thank you very much. Let me follow up and ask you to address this question as simply with a yes or no as possible. What about the newly established Common Core curriculum? Now, Beth Kassow wrote a column, an interesting column the other day that said that the Common Core does not in itself establish tests. It's the state that does that. How do you feel about Common Core? Any opinions?
I can go. They're intimately tied together. But if you take the high stakes testing away, then teachers can use the standards as a guide and focus more on the students and how the students fit or not. And Common Core really isn't the issue, it's the high stakes testing.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez.
Correct, and of course, Common Core, what was given from national is one size fits all. Florida came and changed like 98 issues on it, and part of it was the testing, as Representative Castro Dental said. It still needs some work, and we're willing to work on getting some of these resolved.
Question from the audience, and forgive me for preempting you. Yes, Marty?
We don't need to be there. First of all, let me say I appreciate the courtesy and bipartisanship that you're showing, because it is sadly lacking, and I think that's a heartbreaking commentary on our country currently. But given that Representative Dentals is term limited, can you tell me, Mr. Cortez, why you think you would be better?
Sure, absolutely. Basically, life experience. I've been in a district that's so diverse that you have not just the Hispanic population, the Anglo and everything else, African American, and this diverse. I came from New York, through Puerto Rico, through South Carolina, and here in Florida, which I've made my home. So I've made it a person that has learned the different cultures and everything else, languages, and so forth. Also, as a proud husband and parent who's been able to raise my children through the Seminole County school system, and then, of course, as a business owner that brings a business owner and a government official.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid that has to be our last question for these candidates. Let's show our appreciation for their appearance today. Thank you for joining us.